Uh, thank you. Thank you all for being on our call today. I'm very fortunate. I think we're all very fortunate to be joined by Todd Butzer. Todd is our regional operating principal. He's also the regional director up in the Minnesota region. What's that called? What's that region called, Todd? I'm sorry.
Called North Central.
North Central region.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad I
you're
said,
good enough. Close enough.
glad I said that. And Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Todd's also somebody that's been inside of Keller Williams about as long as anyone I've ever met, and been next to Gary, and has had a lot of, and has always been very willing to share a lot of Gary's thinking. And I thought Todd would be a great person to share his and Gary's and try to help us accelerate out of this. We're going to have a lot of time at the end for you all to ask questions, and we'll kind of work through that together with Adam, and we'll go from there. So, Todd, first of all, how are you? How's the family? As my parents say, they're adult children and grandchildren.
Yeah. So thanks for asking, Jeffrey. First of all, thanks for inviting me. I was talking to Jeffrey earlier, and I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, but I said I'm kind of affiliated with somewhere around 50 market centers, and Jeffrey's the first one to reach out and say, "Hey, let's just have a chat." So I'm just thrilled to be here. I think we're going to have a nice morning. Hopefully, we can have a good conversation. My family's great. We're very fortunate because we have all of our children are in the same community we're in, and all of our grandbabies are in the same community. It's a little challenging now, of course, because those of you that have kids and grown kids and grandchildren, you know that most of it's virtual now, and that's tough because we're used to hugging those babies a lot. So anyway, but thanks for asking. We're all good. We're safe. We're doing our part to slow this down. Minnesota's fortunate. I will tell you that we have the lowest infection rate of any state in the U.S. per capita, which has been good. So people are taking it seriously here, and they're we're locking down. They got ahead of it pretty early on, I think, and so we're fortunate that way. But everybody's just kind of hunkered down, just like you guys are. So, and we know it's been very, very, very tough there. So,
yeah, it's but I see those cell phone maps of how little people are moving around the New Orleans area, and I'm incredibly happy to see that people have really kind of listened to the advice of the doctors and scientists. But let's jump in if that's okay. And, I think on the news, we keep hearing the term global recession. Certainly if you turn on CNBC or Bloomberg, that is the, bottom third, practically the whole day. Okay, sure, global recession, but what does that mean for us as realtors on a practical level?
I think this will sound maybe like a Dear Abby answer, and I don't mean it to, Jeffrey, but I think a lot of it is we can go technical and we can say it's GDP dropping for 2 consecutive quarters, that kind of stuff. But I think more realistically, I have to look at it and say, okay, there's a lot of things globally that can impact on a large level the stock market, your equity portfolio. You can wake up tomorrow and have that thing drop by 5, 6, 8, 9%, and there's nothing you can do about that. And it's a roller coaster, right? And even before all of this, you could wake up and look at your portfolio, and it drops by 3-4% in one day, and you say, why? What happened? Well, there was an event in Egypt, and the investors got worried about it, and so everything tanked. This country is a little upset at this country and they're starting a little trade, whatever it might be. And we are so interconnected. Anyway, what does it really mean to us on a local level? I think I look back and I say, okay, is the market completely shut off? I mean, like shut off, or is it just chugging through mud a little bit more? And it's a little just tougher to get stuff done. Those are two very different things. And so in my world, in my life, I entered in the same time Gary entered. I entered in '82, and interest rates were stupid. And we don't have to go back to those days, but because we didn't know any better, you just had to sell houses. And so what you would do is because nobody could get financing, Jeffrey, I would get my book of MLS, right? And I would look at the new listing, and there was a little spot, I still remember, it was in the bottom right-hand corner of the listing page, and it would say what type of financing was required, And if it said cash out, you just ignored the listing. And I'm not joking, you just ignored it, because if it was cash out, that means somebody had to go to a bank and get financing, and nobody could do that, so you just ignored it. If it said seller financing available, contract for deed, purchase money mortgage, whatever, if it had seller carryback, assumable, whatever, if it had something else in there, we could play with it. So I think it's a long answer, but I think it's mostly what we do every day is how it impacts us. Because let's face it, some are going to emerge from this stronger, and they're going to emerge with a larger pipeline of transactions, and others are going to be struggling a lot. I just read a text to you this morning, Jeffrey, that I got from a mega in my area who's not with our company, and I just reached out to check in with him, and I wanted to get his perspective on what's going on, and I wanted to talk to him about our independent model and so on. And I said, how are things going? And he said 65 accepted offers in March. We're at 203 on the year to this month. Now, this was April 2nd, so we'd already done 2 deals in April. He said, pardon the expression, April might suck. May might be brutal. June will explode. That's this guy's view of what he thinks he's going to be up against. And then I asked him if he's applied for payroll protection, things like that. But so I think a lot of this is centered around if there are transactions being done, I'm going to get my share, or Gary's terminology, my unfair share. Because a lot of the stuff happening globally, Jeffrey, we can't help how many ventilators get into New York City hospitals.
Sure.
Or New Orleans hospitals.
Or if Russia and the Saudis are going to have a price war.
And we can't decide when they're going to fix that and quit thinking that they're going to stop the U.S. from fracking, right?
Right.
That the normal individual in New Orleans or St. Paul, Minnesota, nothing we can do there. We can just decide how we're gonna act every day.
And I think you kind of just answered my next question, which was if you've been in this since '82, how have you survived these shifts? And it sounds like your answer just now was you've shifted your awareness into what you can control and what you can do and what outcomes you can affect on a daily basis. And if you just keep working to that end, that was kind of the big picture of what worked. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And I think it's in general. I'm speaking for me. I'm not going to pretend. I mean, I know this is a very unusual time. It's hard for parents with kids at home. We're suddenly educators online. We're trying to juggle jobs and work and all that. So it's very, very difficult. I think in general, though, when you're going through something tough, you feel better at least I feel better when I'm moving, when I'm doing some sort of an action. It improves my view. And if I hunker down, I used to deal with this, not personally, but you used to see this in other tough markets. '08 was one of them, where you'd have people struggling maybe to make their mortgage payments. And it was always a predictable pattern, because if they couldn't make their payment, the lender would start reaching out, okay? And the calls would start to increase. And there were really kind of 2 different places people would go. One way they would go is, I'm taking the call and I'm going to tell them exactly what's going on. And I'm going to tell them, oh, look, I can't pay you right now. I can pay $100 a month, and I will do that until I get back on my feet. And then, but I can't pay you right now. So let's work something out. That's one approach. Or the other approach is just You know,
Yeah.
I hope they quit calling. Well, what happens is they don't quit calling. Well, they do quit calling. Then they start sending things in the mail, right? And then they start showing up because you haven't been talking to them. So it gets worse with less activity. And this kind of thing, if you get fearful globally, instead of trusting what you mentally can do and you physically can do and you spiritually can do, it can overwhelm. Instead, you can say, look what you're doing right now. Okay. You've designed a new studio in your home to figure out how to do broadcasting from there. You're the electrician, you're the sound engineer, you're the camera operator, you're the catering company, you're everything. You're reaching out saying, I want to organize these courses. I want to invite our people to it. And we're going to try to get this thing figured out. We're going to take an action. So, and a lot of it, I can honestly tell you when in the early 80s and then again in the early 90s, then in the mid 2000s and so on, when things were moving, I think I moved more out of protection for the family than some sort of a brilliant strategic thing. It was just more, we need to eat. We
Safety
need
and
to do
security.
transactions. Yeah, there wasn't any big charge up the hill type thing. I don't recall doing that. I recall, look, there is no financing available. Great. Well, we'll do deals where they don't require financing,
We saw that
it's like when I moved.
Closed. Sorry, we had
thing.
the clerk of court computers didn't work for a long time, for months in New Orleans Parish. They had a crash and they didn't back up properly. And so the only way we could transact business were people that were willing to forego title insurance and pay cash because, or a bank that would sign a deal, that would hold the last seller liable, that kind of thing. So those were interesting times, and we're back in there and we can absolutely transact business. So
right.
And so I hear Gary talk a lot about foresight, leaders having foresight, agents having foresight right now. And easy to say, but how would you tell an agent, or how would you see an agent having foresight? What's a great agent right now? What kind of foresight do they have? What kind of activities today are making results tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Jeffrey. And I wish I had just do A and then B and then C. So let me just kind of do a stream of consciousness, if I might. Let's go back to foresight for a second in terms of Gary. If you really watch what he's doing with Keller Williams, okay, you see about a 2-hour podcast with Tim Ferriss, who wrote The 4-Hour Workweek and then The 4-Hour Body, right? Now, he did that right around the holidays, which was a really busy time for him. It's always busy for him, but he took 2 hours with that guy. Now, you say, why would he do that? Well, he does it for all of us, right? He does it to keep himself out there. Then you hear about major agents that are moving into Keller from around the country, and that's Gary doing the recruiting. He's the one out making that happen to, quote, disrupt the market. Then you look at the Keller iBuying program. You look at Keller Mortgage. You look at Keller Covered, okay, which will be a fun exercise for you guys later to do with Keller Covered. But when you look at that, that is a disruption where you're looking forward and saying, we are not simply going to do business the way we've done it. There's a great business author named, I think he's great anyway. His name is Patrick Lencioni. And Lencioni was the one who, you probably have one of his books there, Jeffrey.
Right here is the Patrick Lencioni section, right there.
Right, there you go. So, so show us one of his books, Jeffrey, if you got one there, so we can see how his name is spelled and things. He wrote like the 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Here, I got 5 dysfunctions of a team right there, and I got 20 off.
There you go.
When I went to Barnes and Noble. That's how old this is.
Okay, So let's look at Patrick for an example. So Patrick, I watched him in a live streamed leadership conference once a few years ago, and he said this, and I thought it was really profound, guys. He said, "I see businesses shackle themselves to a model that is atrophying around them, and they just slide into the ground. They don't adjust." And so what Keller Mortgage is, what Keller Covered is, what Command is, what the mobile app is a disruption to the industry. And trust me on this, because it's true, the industry is watching what we're doing as a company. Okay, that's what they're doing. Now, in my view, Gary stepped into a company-wide staff meeting about a year and a half, 2 years ago down in Austin, which I was in. And he said, "In case you haven't noticed, I'm blowing up the company. And I'm going to keep blowing it up," meaning it's kind of the definition of "Who moved my cheese?" By the way, go get that book. The cheese has been moved, right? And so foresight is what got me here. This is cliche, Jeffrey, I apologize. What got me here is not going to get me there. Right. I've got to change things up. And you see it all the time with sporting franchises. You guys see it. You'll see a coach will get somebody to the Super Bowl, and then 2 years later, the coach is gone, right? And they're rebuilding their team because they're going to blow that thing up, and because they got to look toward the future. So for me, as an agent, there's so many things. The number one simplest thing in my mind, and people kind of can trade off simple and easy all the time, but I think a phone call where you say, "Hey Jeffrey, it's Todd Butzer. How are you?"
Great, Todd.
I'm just calling. I'm just calling to see how you guys are doing. I'm sitting here in my house, quarantined essentially, and I was looking at some old stuff, and I saw your name, and I was remembering when we did the deal on Ridgewood, and I think that was like 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
And we had that weird seller, and anyway, I hope you guys are safe and sound, and I hope everything's good. Hey, just real quick, I can't remember what interest rate you guys got on your house, but I think at that time it was like 4. They're substantially lower than that right now, Jeffrey. And you can, I'm going to send you a link on my app, but go to apply for a Keller mortgage, and you can do it for no cost, and you might reduce your payment. Anyway, that's something you can do later. But I just want to call and say hi. I hope you guys are doing well. I mean,
that's a great
those
script.
calls aren't. And thank you. I mean, but that isn't that hard to do, to just say, how you doing? And I think the number one thing is just to do that. Now, Jeffrey, you and I did a quick technical login beforehand, and we were chatting. In between that chat and me logging into this call, I got a text from an agent that I've known for years, and he works about 7 or 8 miles from me right now. And he said, it came in at 3 minutes to 10. He said, "Todd, I was thinking about you today and thought I'd check to see how you are feeling. Hope you and Jody and family are doing well." That's it. Now, Gary brought up on a call the other day, he brought up, he said, our industry is good at this. When you think about, and we talked about this yesterday on our leadership call, Jeffrey and Jeff, where, Gary brought up last week, he said, "How many of you have had your banker call you?"
A lot.
Your dentist, your butcher, your a local restaurant you always like to visit at, your accountant, your finance person, your doctor. How many of you have had any of these people call you and just say, "Hey, how are you? This is a strange thing we're in." And he said, as an industry, we're good. Now, I was showing some quotes of Gary yesterday to our leadership team, and we kind of cut the call at the end, and I realized I had one more quote from him, and he said, those that are going to stay in touch during this are the ones that are going to thrive. So foresight to me thinks about things like, for example, and again, I'm riffing here, so just stay with me. If those of you that have retirement accounts or 401ks, or you just have investment accounts and you're in the equities market in a big way, you're watching what's going on, right? So we've got a
Sure.
40% roughly depletion in those accounts. I don't believe that the American public, which is getting the greatest transfer of wealth in its history, from the baby boomers on now that are transferring their wealth, where are they going to put the money? Because they're not going to go right back into the equities market because they won't trust it. And they don't want to just set it under the mattress. So to me, real estate looks like a really beautiful vehicle that doesn't have a little dial on it going up and down every single day when they drive by it, right?
Boy, does
Compared
it.
to logging into their equity. So what does this look like? Hey, Jeff, it's Todd Butzer calling. You know what? You and I have never really talked about this, but I was thinking about you the other day. I'm wondering if you've ever considered owning investment real estate, and if you've ever thought about how that works. Have you ever looked into that? Well, no, I don't want to manage any properties. Good, because nobody I work with manages any properties. In fact, a lot of them don't even go in the property before they buy it. But what I thought I would do is, we're all working from Zoom these days. I put together a little mini class, and you can get a glass of wine. I'll have a glass of wine, and we can share that. And I'll show you the 4 benefits of owning investment real estate and how the going concern actually works. And this might be a really opportune time for you to start looking to expand your portfolio with investment real estate and how that actually goes down. So I'd love to invite you to it if you're okay with that. I'll send you a link, and we can do that online through Google or through Zoom. It'd be kind of fun to do. I don't think that's a hard script. And so right now you have relatives, folks, some doing better than others, some doing really, really tough right now. I understand that. But some are struggling with where to put any money. They don't know what to do with it. What if you were, and I've talked about this before, what if you were the expert of how to buy inside of an investment vehicle like a 401k? What if you were the expert on how to do that? And again, right now, moving money in and out of those is a little tricky. But there's going to be fear about the equity marketplace. And if we're an answer to that, long answer, Jeffrey, but to me, that's looking out saying, you know what I used to do, and I still to this day do it to a different degree, is I would, my database was not Command, wasn't even Top Producer or anything like that. It was a yellow legal pad, but I would just routinely stare at a blank piece of paper and say, okay, I've got to create business today. Business is not going to come to me. I've got to create it. And where are my best sources for that? Where can I start to move the needle in any direction? And I'm going to start doing that. So I'm going to think of everybody I know that might need something in the future, right? I'm going to start taking a position, hey, Jeff, I know that you've got a brother and sister-in-law in Denver. And you know that there's more referrals going back and forth between Denver and New Orleans than any other city, other than cities in New Orleans or in Louisiana. It's kind of interesting. So I know you have a sister and a brother-in-law there. I've never told you this, though. I've got 4 agents in the Denver metro area that are close friends of mine that are all phenomenally gifted people in real estate. And if your sister and brother-in-law ever need any help in that regard, just let me know, because I'll put them in touch with somebody great.
What a nice thing to be able to offer somebody. I mean, those are big things. I'm total agreement with you, Todd. I think those are some great tactical and huge things you can do. And if you just start talking to people and I think sometimes the word lead, the term lead generating got us kind of, nervous place because we knew we weren't
Yeah.
doing enough,
Right.
or we needed a script, or a quiet room or something like that, a fancy headset. This is loving on people. As somebody said yesterday on a call, this is love generating. We're just checking
Yeah.
on our friends and family, and if there's a way we can help them, what better gift could we give? It's what we
Right.
do. We serve.
It's just kind of keeping your, it's a touch is what it is. And it doesn't require anything. I saw a really top team up here. They just sent me a video. Well, they sent it to everybody. And this went out maybe a week or so ago. And they're a really, really solid team up in the Western Twin Cities metropolitan area. And they sent out this video, guys, and it's a husband and wife, and they were sitting on a couch, and they've done really well. And they started the video by kind of saying, look, this is unprecedented, and we're safe. We hope you're safe. If there's anything you or a relative may need in and around this area, if they need groceries picked up, if there's just something you need, reach out to us and we'll do it. And they kind of are talking back and forth. And then the guy's wife says something, and he kind of stalls for a second. And they're both just kind of staring at the camera. And he goes, yeah, right. Okay. And they kind of stumble. And I thought, that's just charming. It's wonderful because we do stumble.
Sure.
We don't have to sound perfect. We don't have to have that beautiful little flip at the end that nails it. It's just, look, I was thinking about you. And, I'm wondering, my dog died, I think 8 years ago. We've not yet gotten a new dog, and we're seeing all of our neighbors with their new dogs. And, Sue, I remember you and Jim have got that really fantastic kind of mutt. And where did you get the dog? Because I think Jody and I are ready to kind of look into that right now. And I just remembered you had such a cool dog. And by the way, do you still have the cool dog? Yeah, he's 11 now. That's awesome. And what was he again? Well, he's this and a this and a this. Okay. So anyway,
Great
I hope you're
stuff.
well. We're gonna go check out that place.
That's really good. So you kind of are leading me perfectly into my next question for you, which is I have been talking to a lot of friends. I've been talking to a lot of agents, and I hear, look, I'm guilty too, a lot of 80% activity going on. And we've got it's like time. We've got a lot of stuff going on, but we know that it's the 20% activities that are going to get us there. And that are going to lead us through this and allow us to accelerate out. Maybe you can do me a favor and explain at a high level really quickly about the 80-20 principle, but also what are the 20% activities? I think you just said, love generating. That would be one of them. What are maybe a couple other things we could be doing right now?
Well, and I think, thank you, Jeffrey. I think that's a great question too. So 80-20 there's a book, there's a few books written on it, of course, but the book by, I think it's Koch or Cook, Koch, wrote a book called The 80-20 Principle. And it's based on the Italian mathematician, philosopher Pareto's principle, which when he was studying land ownership, and I've read two different things, he was studying land ownership in England and in Italy, but he discovered that 20% of the land owners owned 80% of the land wealth. Okay. And then he started to apply it in different areas. Now, what Cook writes about in the book, which I think is brilliant, is he said, and this is a little freaky to get your arms around, they don't have to equal 100. So when he said it's the 80-20 principle, 20% leads to 80%, he said oftentimes it's more like 4% leads to 99%. They're two different metrics, right? So one bit of activity leads to this massive amount of result. So, and he said what's kind of interesting about it, I think you'll find it true. He said it also applies to your closet. You wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. I mean, I'm boring, man. I'm not as deliberate as Gary on that, but I kind of went to a uniform a long time ago, which I don't have a lot of choices. I don't want a lot of choices. So, smaller to bigger is the deal. So, I have an exercise that I haven't shared with too many people, but I'll share it with you, and maybe it'll help make a difference. And this goes back to my marketing company days. I bought a marketing company that kind of specialized in hospitality and hospitality and manufacturing, and then real estate. And so, and the activity was simply this, Jeffrey, is a few times during the day. Don't do it every half hour. It'll drive yourself crazy. But a couple times during the day, look back at your morning and kind of think about what would be what I would call billable hours, right? In other words, when did you this morning do something that can create revenue for you? It's a direct productivity style activity, a productive activity. So I'm going to get paid for this at some point. So this is client contact, client development, lead generation, lead follow-up, right? Market follow-up. It's market whatever. It's something that instead of me just being quote busy, I'm doing something that I'm going to be paid for directly. Right, it's a direct hour-to-hour kind of thing, and in the marketing or advertising world, you called it billable hours. So, well, for the first hour, I was just on Facebook. I really didn't do much. Okay, well, it's not billable, right? It's not. We're not going to get paid for that. I did a bunch of emails to friends, and I sent some texts this morning. Okay, well, maybe that's just staying in touch. Maybe we're going to include that. I don't know, but just take a look at where the time is being spent, I think, is one of the first things. Okay. The second thing to ask yourself as you're doing that is, am I just being busy to be busy, or am I building my business? Am I reaching directly out to someone who needs help? Okay. So I'll share this story, and I think I can disguise it enough where I know this is probably recorded, but this stays in this group, right? Doesn't
Absolutely.
get shipped off to the world. Okay, great. So there was a gentleman I've known for years, and he was a good agent at one time, and his business was beginning to decline, and his stress was beginning to rise. And I would never embellish any of this, so everything you're going to hear was what was going on. So he had no car insurance, and he was driving buyers around in a car that was uninsured. He couldn't keep a cell phone because he couldn't pay for it, so he had to do like a prepaid phone thing from Walmart or whatever. He couldn't have a regular just cell. His wife was working 3 jobs, not 2. And I always say to people, okay, well, what kind of job do you get that you can get 3 of? In other words, how much do those jobs pay you, right? They don't pay you anything, but it does add a lot of stress to your life. So financially, this thing is going south in a big way. So I would periodically call and check in on him. I don't have every answer, and I'm not like some go-to guru, but I would call him and check in. And I called him one Friday morning, and I said, hey, Bill, how's it going? And he said, it's okay. I said, well, what are you doing right now? He said, I'm entering names into top producer. And I said, wrong answer. That's the wrong answer. You got to go out in front of the biggest grocery store in town, and you have to have a sign that says, I sell houses. I mean, you got to, because you need to sell a house this morning. Right? You need to sell a house right now because you don't have any money. I said, putting names in top producer, that's fine. That's midnight on Saturday, but that's not 10 a.m. on a Friday. You're talking to somebody at 10 a.m. on a Friday. You're in front of someone. It's direct contact. It's like Gary always says, it's contact sport. You've got to do something today, not to be busy. Here's the example. I hold an open house, right? Monique, you come in. All right, Monique, did I say that right, Monique? Monique, you come in. And here's what I say. I say, hey, hi, I'm Todd. Welcome. Thanks for coming over to 21 Ridgewood. Take a look around. We've got some refreshments in the kitchen there. And you know, let me know if you have any questions. I'm here to help, right? And Monique walks around and then she leaves. Thanks for stopping by. Did you sign in, Monique? Yeah, I signed in. Okay, great. So I look and she did sign in. Oh, that's great. So here's what I do. I go back to my office and I enter her name in a database, and that's cool. Then I create a handwritten note. I thank her. Oh, thanks for stopping by my open house. There's only one problem. When she left my open house, she ran into Adam at the next one. And Adam said, hey, Monique, nice to meet you. Thanks for stopping by 25 Ridgewood. Do you need to sell your house to buy this one? Yeah. Okay, well, let's go look at your house. Let's see what it's valued at. Well, what are you going to do with this? I'll close the open house. We'll just go to your house right now. I'll help you right now. And she gets an appointment with him, or he gets an appointment with her, and it's over. So my actions are just, I'm being busy. So the questions we ask ourselves, Jeffrey, a long answer is, am I just being busy? Or am I connecting? Does that make sense, guys?
I completely agree. So many times we hear, oh, that was how was your open house? Oh, it's great. Well, did you get any leads out of it? Oh yeah, I got a full clipboard. I'm going to go enter them into command.
It's already over.
Yeah. And it's Monday mid-morning or lunchtime. And they're like, I'm going to get to that this evening or this afternoon. And yeah, you missed the value of those are diminishing assets, right? The longer you have it, the less valuable it becomes right then and there.
Here's what happens. Because we're afraid to reach out and connect at the open, we don't, okay? So I used to ask this question, guys, the answer was almost always the same. I'd have a large class of real estate agent wannabes, right? A couple hundred people in the room. And I would say this, I'd say, how many of you have been to an open house with the intent of buying a home? And almost every hand would go up, almost everybody. I'd say, great. How many of you have experienced this? An agent actually made an appointment with you while you were at the open house. What do you think would happen to the hands?
All go down.
They all go down, but 2 or 3. And then I'd say, okay, so what happened to you guys? Oh, they became a good friend. We bought 2 homes from them, 5 investment properties. Our son just built a house through them, blah. They become a client. But we don't do it. So we want to do activity, but we don't want to do the activity. And I don't mean that in a harsh way.
No, I think that's
just so mean true. I mean it for, I used to say this, Jeffrey. I used to say, look, it's the greatest business to be really busy in all day long and not make any money.
That's true.
Because you can fill up your day with stuff, guys, but you'll feel better if it'd be better if you actually really connected with 2 or 3 people today that need you and could really just want to connect with you versus doing a bunch of busy stuff, so.
That's great. Well, I've got a whole page of questions here, and I'm going to save a little time to come back to you, but I wanted to give other people a chance to ask some questions to Todd. If you have a question, let's just put on the chat, just say something and unmute yourself when you do that, and I'll call on you if that's okay. Anybody have a question? Therese says, be more purposeful. Got it. I like that. Adam, did you have something?
Hey, yeah. Question. So I know you'd said to focus on what you can control. What's a good way for people to kind of look at what they can and can't control, especially knowing that the market's going to be changing so much, and kind of trying to stay ahead of the curve of what they can control?
Adam, thank you for that. I think it's a great question. I don't know that I've got a great answer, but I'll take a shot. Here's what you can control. You can control what you listen to. Okay. and what I mean by that is, and I'm not making a political statement. What I'm saying is, what goes in, right? Are you around negative people that are dumping stuff in here? Or are you listening to great music? Are you reading a great piece of literature, right? Are you online looking at cool art because we can't go to the museums right now? Are we, so you can control what's going in. God bless Zig Ziglar. Years ago, he had a tape series called See You at the Top, which, by the way, is probably still relevant. And I remember, as only Zig can do, he said, if I came over to your house and I brought a load of garbage and I dumped that garbage in your living room, oh, you'd be upset. You'd want to get me arrested. He said, but you let garbage come into your house every day. So one thing we can do is we can control what we listen to. Okay. Number two, we can control what we do physically. Those of you that don't have any kind of real physical impairments, you can control what you do physically. You can get out and take a nice walk in most areas. You can go down and get on a treadmill. You can do a few push-ups today. You can stretch. You can do some yoga. You can learn some, whatever, right? We can control that part to the best of our body's ability to respond to that. We can control what we eat, right? We can control the amount we consume. We can control those things. And we can control how often we reach out to individuals. We can control that. And we can control our message, meaning, hey, I'm just calling to say hi. It's been a long time since you and I have talked, and we should Zoom one of these days and have a glass of wine together or something. We can control that. We can control our intellect, meaning we can learn more about the marketplace right now. What if years ago, Danielle Kennedy was a real estate author. She wrote a book about how to succeed in real estate. And I loved one of the early chapters, Adam. It said, the first thing to do is build a mental inventory, meaning the inventory in your area. You can control that right now. You can go online through our app and you can start looking at, homes and building a good mental inventory for those properties. There's a million different things that, but again, I'll go back to, you can control what comes in your brain, you can control your message, and you can control who you reach out to.
That's great. Thank you.
Awesome.
My pleasure.
I forgot, Todd. One of the first things I did when I got a real estate license was I had potential investor buyers for warehouses, and what I did was I went through every night with the commercial app. I'm trying to think what it was called, in LoopNet, the one that's expensive. And I sat and I literally clicked on every single industrial listing until I knew them all. And if one was worthwhile, I would screenshot it the next morning. I'd go play in Excel and make a quick little financial statement of what I thought it would rent would be. But by the time I was ready to go, or by the time those people were ready to buy something, I knew every warehouse that was on the market. And if you want to, if you've got potential buyers for a neighborhood, become the Irish Channel expert. Know every house that's up for market. Know how long it's been there. Know if it's overpriced. Know what it would rent for.
That's my point. It's you. Yeah. And that leads me to a quick comment, Jeffrey, is that we always talk about being the market expert. And years ago, and by the way, I bring this up because I really believe it's maybe even more pertinent right now. Years ago, I used to do consulting with an agent. He was a RE/MAX guy and a great agent. And what we would do is, to his database, to his farm particularly, he would write a letter. And this would go in the actual snail mail, it wasn't an email. And he would say, Dear Jeffrey, as your neighborhood real estate professional, I take great pride in tracking what for most people is their largest investment. I wanted to just give you a quick update on what's happening in the marketplace. As you know, inventories have shrunk dramatically in our particular area. And what's interesting about that is in our zip code of blah, 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 our prices have actually risen dramatically in the last year because of shortages of inventory compared to the rest of the market, which is actually depreciating a little bit. As always, I'm happy to help you with anything you may need regarding real estate. Sincerely, your professional real estate agent, Michael Sharp. And he would just send, you know,
Yeah.
Instead of saying, hey, don't forget to turn your clocks back. I mean, you know.
Yeah. That's exciting.
He would send a market update. You know, here's what's really going on in the marketplace right now. Dear Don and Betty, as your neighborhood professional, I take great pride in keeping track of the real estate market very closely, blah, blah, blah. You may believe with the coronavirus that real estate is shut off. Couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, last week we had more closings than we've ever had. It's just been really an interesting way to get them done. But people are still buying and selling. And in your neighborhood, blah, 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 blah. Sincerely, your neighborhood real estate professional, you know, Todd, I hope you're great. Please stay safe.
Those are great. Well,
yeah.
How about expenses? I feel like it would be unfair if we didn't talk about that a little bit. You did a great KW Connect Live video, which we got to plug what KWRI is doing for all of us right now, real quickly. 4 times a day, 3 or 4 times a day, they're having classes with top people around the company, talking about an issue that's important to you. And I don't watch every one of them. Okay. My time, you know, we all have to do important activities, but I'm very purposeful about going through the list at the beginning of the week and putting on my calendar the ones that I think, you know, maybe this is something I need to hear, or I need to hear again, or, you know, this is a weakness that I need to work on, or that's a great speaker. I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal. Let me get on that. But what should we be doing with expenses? Let's talk about that for a minute, if you don't mind.
Well, first of all, that's a great question, Jeffrey. So, and you're right, Jay Papazan and Meredith, and I mean, you know, there's a ton of people. You know, when we did that finance class a week ago, they're doing exactly what all of you are doing. They're working from their houses, and you're piecemealing these programs together. And I'm sitting here in my little home on Colleen Drive, and they're wherever they are in Texas and around the world trying to organize that and put it together. And they were working with me over the weekend getting that ready to go. So they're doing a great job, you're right. And they're all in. And so there's a lot of great content on there. Great instructors are on there. So expenses on a personal basis and a business basis, right? So you're going to go through and you're going to examine very carefully, is that something I really need? Is that part of running my business, or is that something I've just kind of ballooned up over the years? So an exercise that I think is really valuable is, and this is a side note, but take your P&L, hopefully you have one. If you don't, take your credit card statements, and you go from your biggest expenses, which is, if you have a team, it's your staff and things like that. You go down through your expenses, lead gen and whatever, and you go down to your lowest number items, okay? And it might be a $10 Pandora description or subscription for the office or something, I don't know. And you look at that, and so you start at the bottom of that list. You start at the least expensive item, and you say, do I need that? Do I even use that? You know, is that even necessary? Well, no, I really don't. Okay, that's gone. That's going to go away. So Jay and I had a conversation, Jay Papazan and I had a conversation about a week ago, and he said, I break them down with Wendy, his wife, who's a mega agent. He said, we break it down like this, and I think I'll get these right for you guys. We got to get going here pretty quick. Do I absolutely need this? Okay. I have to have this. My cell phone. Okay. Have to have my cell phone. Category 2 is, I really would like to keep this. I mean, it's a very important part of my business. Okay. Category 3, I'm not sure I need that. You know, I'm off and on that. I'm a little shaky with whether I need that item. Number 4 is I'm not even sure what that was or what it is. I don't even know why I'm getting billed that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that one's going to go right away, and this one is going to go pretty quickly too, right? And so this is you'll hear Gary talk a lot about this remargining the business. Gary has dropped expenses at KWRI by about 50%. That's right out of his mouth.
Wow.
And he said, and trust me, you won't miss it, meaning all of us. He said, you won't miss it. So he's walking that walk himself, and I appreciate that. On the home front, you can do the same thing. You can just sit down with your significant or your spouse and say, I'm not the only one on this call where as your income has gone up, things start to expand.
Sure.
And you start looking at, right now here at this little house, we have Comcast, cable. And my wife and I were just talking the other day. And I think it's with internet. And I think it's like $280 a month.
Sure.
But here's the thing. We don't watch cable television. We don't watch anything on it. So, so other than the Minnesota Twins in the summer. So
right.
We look at that and say, well, maybe we could do not Slack. Anyway, it's an online little streaming television service that gets the major channels you want, but you're not paying for cable anymore. It's things like that where you just examine in your life and say, I don't need to be doing that. So I would strongly urge that you get as lean as you possibly can. And again, on that class, I think we talked about a little bit on that class, and I'm happy to do another call with you guys to talk about it, Jeffrey. But folks, build yourself a budget. And when I'm looking at my businesses that I'm involved in, and I'm building the income, I'll show you. Hopefully it'll show up on the screen here. I go in, and I do it the old-fashioned way, but I build. I don't know if you guys can see that. I build month by month income of every entity that I'm involved in. I don't just even apply just a flat percentage. I go in and I build month by month how much that thing's going to bring in, because I want my income to be as accurate as possible. And then I'm going to take my expenses and I'm going to lay that out. And it's not restrictive, folks. It's freeing, because you get to look then at every business that's really operating, soundly works from a budget. So anyway,
I agree. I was
Hope that helped,
shocked and a
Jeffrey.
little embarrassed when I went through my Visa and American Express bill. How many just auto charges are just hitting me every month that I, forgot about, don't use, don't need. Do I need a terabyte for my wife and I on iCloud?
Right.
There's all these little things that add up, and I'm embarrassed to say that they were there, but it was not fun pulling all that stuff out and calling those companies or tracking down how you get rid of this stuff. But it added up to thousands of dollars a year I cut out.
It's a lot of money.
That I shouldn't even miss. I didn't even change my cable. Well, we don't have TV service. We just have internet. But that was a big move. Well, Todd, I want to respect your time and everyone else's, and we only have 3 minutes left here, but 82. You said 1982. And I'm guessing you've come out ahead every single time. Is that an accurate statement?
Yep. Yes.
What would you leave us with if we forget everything we heard in the last hour? What do you want to say in the last 2 minutes here that we can take away with us?
That's a good one. That's a good one, Jeffrey. Thank you. First of all, thanks for inviting me, guys. I've enjoyed this, and I hope there's an item or two in here that you can kind of turn to and look at for your business. I guess my one thing would be that as you look at your day, not every day is going to be phenomenally productive. You can't nail this every hour of every day. You simply can't do that. What you can do, though, is get a little better every day in terms of protecting you. And if we look at our companies that we own, which you all own the company, and you look at it from a fiduciary standpoint, meaning you have to protect that thing, not you. It's protecting your business, right? And so you go about your day and you say, look, today I'm going to work to build and protect this asset that I have, and take some action. And I'm a big believer in, whatever the movie was with Dreyfus and Bill Murray, but I'm a big believer in baby steps. I'm a big believer in do something today. And I'll wrap it with this. Zig Ziglar a long time ago said, is there something you could do between now and the end of the day that would have a good impact on your business? And then everybody would kind of go, yeah. He'd say, is there something you could do between now and the end of the day that would have a negative impact on your business? And people go, yeah. He said, well, which were you going to choose? So take some action. That's my advice. Take some action. Doesn't have to be 500 things today and, cutting up all your credit cards. Just make a move and you'll feel better. And you guys are going to do great.
Well, Todd, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate everyone being here. We held pretty much everyone on this meeting for the whole hour. So that's fantastic. That must mean we hit a couple nerves. So thanks again, Todd. Thank you. And everybody in Keller Williams, New Orleans. We have our sales meeting tomorrow at 9:45 right here on Google Meet. And a lot of great things to share with you. So have the great rest of the day, and please go do those things that are going to make your
Jeffrey.
business better.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be with you. Good luck. Be safe down there.
All right. Thank you.